You can barely grunt out English, and you think you can read something this
Gerald
old?
Whitmore waved a 3,000-year-old tablet in his black maid's face. 30 millionaires watched. Nobody moved.
Translate it. 100 grand. That's more cash than your whole family saw in 3 generations. What's wrong? Too many big words for that ghetto brain? Either translate it or get your black ass out of my house.
She set the tray down, slowly. She walked toward him. She picked up the tablet. And what she said next made his face go white. Let's rewind 6 hours. Before the insults, before the laughter, before Amara Townsend ever touched that tablet. It's a Thursday evening in late October. Gerald Whitmore is hosting a private dinner in his Upper East Side penthouse. 40 floors above Manhattan, floor-to-ceiling windows, a view of Central Park that costs more than most people's homes. The guests are scholars, collectors, and a documentary crew. Whitmore just spent $2.2 million at a Sotheby's auction on an Akkadian cuneiform tablet, a clay slab covered in wedge-shaped writing from ancient Mesopotamia. He doesn't know what it says, he doesn't really care. He cares that he owns it. Tonight, 2 world-class scholars are here to translate it for the documentary he's producing about his collection. One of them is Dr. Eleanor Ashford from Columbia University. Sharp, silver-haired, decades of fieldwork. The other is Dr. Hugh Calloway, pompous, credentialed, allergic to being wrong. They've been arguing for an hour. The tablet has 12 columns of text. 11 of them they agree on, but the third column uses an archaic dialect neither of them recognizes in this context. Calloway insists it's a legal decree. Eleanor isn't convinced. Whitmore is losing patience. The documentary shoot is Friday. He needs a translation by then or he looks like a fool on camera. Across the room, Amara Townsend is collecting empty wine glasses. She moves quietly. Sensible shoes. Apron pocket. A small leather notebook tucked inside, the corner just visible. She passes the table where the tablet sits. She slows down, just a hair. Just enough to glance at the photographs the scholars have spread out for reference. Calloway's voice rises. He mispronounces an Akkadian word, sharum, flattening the vowel, missing the doubled consonant. Confidently, loudly, Amara, almost without meaning to, mouths the correct pronunciation under her breath. Calvin Moore, the head of household staff, is standing 3 feet away. He hears it. His head turns. Slow. Careful. He looks at Amara like he's seeing her for the first time in 12 years. His eyes widen, then narrow. Then, almost imperceptibly, he shakes his head. Don't. Amara presses her lips together, picks up another glass, but the tablet is calling her name. The dinner ends around 10. The guests drift to the lounge for cognac and conversation. Whitmore is holding court near the fireplace, telling a story about a Picasso he almost bought in Geneva. Amara is alone in the gallery room. The cleaning cart is parked by the door. She moves through the space the way she always does, quiet, efficient, invisible. Wipes down the side tables, empties the small wastebasket by the window, straightens a chair. Then she stops. The tablet is locked behind glass in a climate-controlled case, but the high-resolution photographs the scholars used are still spread across the long oak table. 8 by 10 prints, every wedge mark, every crack in the clay captured in fine detail. Amara sets her cleaning cloth down. She doesn't sit. She just leans forward, hands behind her back, and reads. Her lips move silently. The room is so quiet you can hear the soft tick of the wall clock, the faint wail of a siren 40 floors below, the hum of the climate system keeping the air at exactly 68 degrees. She stays like that for almost 2 minutes. Then she pulls the leather notebook from her apron pocket. It's worn at the corners. The cover is cracked. The pages inside are filled with handwriting. 2 different scripts, 2 different generations. She flips to a page near the back, studies it, looks at the photograph again. She nods to herself. There's a pencil left on the table. One of the scholars forgot it. Amara picks it up, takes a clean cocktail napkin from the stack by the bar cart, and writes. She writes fast. Her hand moves the way a pianist's moves over keys they've practiced 10,000 times. No hesitation, no second guessing. She transliterates the disputed passage in flowing Roman letters, then writes a translation underneath. She doesn't hear the door open. Dr. Eleanor Ashford has come back for her reading glasses. She left them on the table beside her notes. She sees Amara. She sees the napkin. She sees the cuneiform. And she stops cold in the doorway. Eleanor doesn't speak for a long moment. She just watches. Her face moves through 3 expressions in 5 seconds. Confusion, then curiosity, then something close to disbelief. Then she clears her throat, soft, careful, like she's approaching a deer in the woods. "Excuse me, may I see what you're writing?" Amara jumps. She crumples the napkin on instinct. Her face goes hot. The cleaning cloth is still on the table, proof of who she's supposed to be in this room. "I'm sorry, ma'am, I shouldn't have. I was just—" "Please," Eleanor says, holding out her hand, palm up, open. "I'm not going to get you in trouble. I just want to read it." Amara hesitates. Calvin's warning is still in her head. Don't. But there's something in Eleanor's voice. Not pity, not curiosity about a curiosity. Something else. Recognition, maybe. She uncrumples the napkin and hands it over. Eleanor takes it carefully. She unfolds it. She reads. Then she reads it again. Her breath catches in her throat. The passage Calloway has been wrestling with for an hour, Amara has not only transliterated it correctly, she's identified the dialect. Old Babylonian Court Akkadian with Sumerian loanwords. She's noted that the third sign in the second line is a scribal variant common to tablets from southern Mesopotamia. She's even flagged a possible reading error in the published reference text the scholars have been using. It's not a guess. It's not a lucky stab. It's the work of someone who has spent thousands of hours inside this language. Eleanor lifts her eyes from the napkin. "Where did you study?" Amara's voice is quiet, almost embarrassed. "The public library on 42nd Street, mostly." The room goes still. Eleanor folds the napkin, carefully, like it's evidence. She slides it into the inside pocket of her jacket. "What's your name?" "Amara. Amara Townsend." "Amara." Eleanor looks at her for a long moment. "Don't leave tonight without speaking to me first. Do you understand?" Amara nods. Eleanor walks out. The door clicks shut behind her. Amara stands alone in the gallery. The cocktail napkin is gone. The pencil is back on the table, but her hands are shaking. To understand how a maid in Manhattan could read a 3,000-year-old Mesopotamian tablet, you have to go back to a small town in Georgia, Waynesboro. Population just under 5,000. Amara grew up in a faded blue house on the edge of town. Her parents were lost to addiction before she could form a clear memory of either of them. The woman who raised her was her grandmother, June Townsend. June was a school teacher, taught for 40 years in a one-room church schoolhouse during segregation. She had no college degree the state would recognize, but she had something the state couldn't take away. A love of language that bordered on holy. She taught Amara to read at 4, Latin prayers from an old Catholic hymnal at 6. By 11, Amara was reading Virgil out loud at the kitchen table while June peeled sweet potatoes for dinner. June had a saying. She'd repeat it whenever a neighbor laughed at her for teaching her granddaughter dead languages. "They can take your job. They can take your home. They can take your name off the deed of the land you were born on. But a language you carry in your mind? That belongs to you forever." She gave Amara the leather notebook for her 10th birthday. Empty pages. June's handwriting on the inside cover. "For my Amara. Fill it with everything they tried to keep from us." June died when Amara was 16. A stroke in her sleep. Quiet. The way she lived. Amara moved to New York at 19 with 2 suitcases and that notebook. She took the first job that paid. Domestic work. Cleaning houses for people who never learned her name. But every evening after her shift, she walked to the New York Public Library on 42nd Street, the big one with the stone lions out front. She'd sit on the floor in the reading room, feet aching, hair tied back, still in her work clothes, and she'd open a Sumerian grammar. Tourists walked past her. Students walked past her. Nobody saw her. She didn't need them to. She had June's notebook open beside her, and she had work to do. The next morning, Eleanor doesn't waste time. She finds Whitmore in his home office at 9 sharp. He's on his second espresso, scrolling through emails. She sits down across from him without being invited. "Gerald, I need a fresh set of eyes on the third column. Someone unconventional but very qualified. I'd like to bring them in this afternoon." Whitmore doesn't look up from his phone. "Fine, bring whoever. But if they waste my time, that's on you, Eleanor." "Understood." She doesn't tell him who. At 2 o'clock, the gallery room is reset. The photographs are laid out. Calloway is there, arms crossed, irritated that he's been called back for a consultation. 2 members of the documentary crew are setting up a stationary camera in the corner. Whitmore's son, Preston, leans against the bookshelf, watching. The door opens. Amara walks in. She's not in her uniform. Calvin helped her press a simple white blouse that morning. Her hair is pulled back. She's holding a folder. Whitmore looks up. His face cycles through 3 expressions in 2 seconds. Confusion, recognition, irritation. "Eleanor, tell me this is a joke. That's my cleaning girl." Eleanor doesn't blink. "She has a name. It's Amara Townsend, and I'd like her to look at the third column." Calloway lets out a short laugh through his nose. He looks at Whitmore like, "Are we really doing this?" Whitmore waves a hand. "Sit down, let's get this over with." Amara sits. The room goes quiet. She opens her folder, pulls out a magnifying loupe, places it on the table beside the photograph. Then she takes the leather notebook from her bag and sets it down on her right. Calloway smirks at the notebook. She doesn't notice, or she pretends not to. For the next 20 minutes, Amara works. She doesn't speak. She doesn't ask for help. She makes small marks on a fresh sheet of paper, transliterations in one column, notes in another. Sensory detail fills the room. The scratch of her pencil, the faint creak of the leather chair, the whir of the air handler in the wall. Whitmore checks his watch twice. Calloway sighs through his nose. Then Amara sets the pencil down. "It's not a legal decree," she says. Her voice is quiet but steady. "It's a royal land grant. The dialect places it in the reign of Samsu-Iluna, Hammurabi's son. The third column references a transfer of orchard land to a temple, with a clause about water rights I haven't seen in any published parallel." She slides the paper across the table. Eleanor leans forward. Calloway snatches it first. He scans it. His jaw tightens. He scans it again, looking for the error, looking for the hook he can use to throw the whole thing out. He doesn't find one. He sets the paper down, adjusts his cuffs. Anyone can parrot a textbook. Eleanor turns to him slowly. "Hugh, there is no textbook that contains this reading. She produced it." Whitmore is watching the exchange. He's not a scholar, but he's a businessman. He knows when someone has lost an argument, and Calloway has lost. He waves Amara out of the room. "Thank you, that's enough for today." Amara gathers her notebook, stands, walks to the door. Eleanor catches her in the hallway. "That wasn't a parlor trick. That was postdoctoral level analysis. Don't let them shrink you." Amara nods. She doesn't trust her voice. Back in the gallery, Whitmore is alone. He pulls out his phone. He searches her name. Nothing comes up. No academic record, no publications, no LinkedIn. That unsettles him more than the translation did. By that evening, the knives are out. Calloway corners Whitmore in the study before dinner. He's already poured himself a scotch, uninvited. "Gerald, listen to me. If word gets out that you used an uncredentialed maid for this documentary, you'll be a punchline at every gala from here to Geneva. The scholarly community will tear it apart, tear you apart." Whitmore swirls his glass. He's listening. "I'm not saying she's not clever. I'm saying clever isn't credible. There's a reason we have institutions, Gerald. There's a reason we have standards." Whitmore nods slowly. He's a man who has spent his whole life buying credibility. He understands the currency. But there's another voice in his head, the voice of a producer, a showman, a man who knows that controversy sells. If the maid is a fraud, he humiliates her on camera and looks decisive. If the maid is brilliant, he discovered her, and he looks like a kingmaker. Either way, he wins. That's how he sees it. Downstairs in the staff kitchen, Amara is sitting at the small table by the dishwasher. Calvin sets a mug of tea in front of her without a word. A younger housekeeper, Diane Brooks, sits across from her. She's 24, hair in braids, sharp eyes. I heard what happened. The whole staff heard. Amara wraps her hands around the mug, doesn't speak. Then Gregory Palmer walks in, the estate manager, 61 years old, worked in service his entire adult life. He doesn't sit. He stands at the counter and looks at Amara with a kind of tired sadness. Amara, listen to me. I've seen this happen before. Not exactly like this, but close enough. They will use you as long as you're useful. And the second you stop being useful, the second you become inconvenient, they will let you go without a reference. You will not work in this city again. Do you understand me? Diane stares at the table. Calvin looks away. Amara's voice is quiet. Gregory, I hear you. I'm not trying to be cruel. I'm trying to keep you employed. I know. He leaves. The kitchen is silent for a long moment. Amara looks down at the leather notebook on the table. She runs her thumb across the cracked cover. June's handwriting on the inside. Fill it with everything they tried to keep from us. She closes her eyes. Who am I to sit at that table? June never sat at any table. She made her own. But there was never a table like this one. Upstairs, dinner is being served. Whitmore at the head. Calloway on his right. Preston on his left. Eleanor across. Amara is pouring coffee. Whitmore sets his fork down. He smiles. The kind of smile that means trouble. Tell you what, Eleanor, I've been thinking about your little protege. Let's make this interesting. The full tablet, 12 columns, both sides. If your girl can produce a complete, verified translation before the documentary shoot on Friday, I'll pay her $100,000, cash, on camera. Calloway laughs out loud. Preston shifts in his chair, doesn't speak. Eleanor sets her wine glass down, slowly. She's not a circus act, Gerald. Amara has just set the coffee tray on the sideboard. She heard every word. She turns. Looks Whitmore in the eye for the first time since she started working there. I'll need access to the original tablet, not just photographs. Whitmore's smirk falters, for half a second. That night, the gallery becomes Amara's. Whitmore signs the access form because he's already committed. Backing out now would make him look weak in front of Eleanor and his own son. He hands Calvin the key card with a tight smile and walks away. At 11 p.m., Amara unlocks the climate-controlled case. The room is bathed in soft blue-white light, the kind museums use to protect ancient materials. The air is cool and dry. The hum of the humidity system is the only sound. She puts on cotton gloves. She hangs a magnifying loop around her neck on a leather cord. She lays out a clean cloth on the table. Then she lifts the tablet. It's heavier than she expected, about the size of a paperback book, an inch thick. The clay is the color of strong coffee with cream. The wedge marks are sharp on one side, softer where centuries of handling have worn them down. She sets it on the cloth. She breathes out. She begins. This is where you have to understand something about Amara. She doesn't just translate. She reads. The way you'd read a letter from a stranger you suddenly want to know. She notices the tool marks first. The angle of the wedges in the upper left quadrant tells her the scribe was left-handed. Most Babylonian scribes were trained right-handed, so this is unusual. She writes it down. She finds a partial seal impression along the bottom edge that the auction catalog missed entirely. She photographs it with her phone for her own records. She works through the columns one by one. The leather notebook is open beside her. She cross-references every difficult sign with parallels she's memorized. Tablets she's never held, only studied through online photographs from the Yale Babylonian Collection and the British Museum's Open Archive. At 1 in the morning, she stops cold. The fifth column contains an addendum, a short passage tucked between two larger sections. It references a legal dispute, but not the kind anyone expected. It's a dispute between two women, sisters, over inheritance rights to a piece of orchard land left by their father. And the ruling sides with the women. Amara sits back in her chair. She presses her hand to her mouth. She knows what this is. This is evidence of female legal agency in old Babylonian society, the kind of evidence scholars have been arguing about for 50 years. She writes it all down, slowly, carefully, her handwriting tight and precise. At 2 in the morning, the gallery door opens. Calvin walks in carrying a steaming mug. Brought you tea. Figured you wouldn't sleep. He sets it down on a side table, well away from the tablet. He stands there for a moment watching her work. Your grandmother would be losing her mind right now. Amara laughs. A real one. The first real one we've heard from her in this whole story. She'd probably be trying to read it over my shoulder. She'd probably be correcting you. She would. Calvin smiles, walks out. Across the penthouse, the documentary cameraman, Tom Briggs, is reviewing the day's footage in the spare bedroom Whitmore set aside for the crew. He's been quietly shooting B-roll all evening, including some shots through the gallery doorway. He pauses on a frame of Amara, head down, gloved hands on the tablet, leather notebook open beside her. He calls his producer. Hey, listen, I think we've been making the wrong documentary. Eleanor arrives at the gallery at 7 the next morning with 2 coffees. Amara is still there. She never went home. She's on her 3rd pass through the translation, checking her own work the way a surgeon double-checks a stitch. Eleanor sets the coffee down, pulls up a chair. Show me everything. For the next 2 hours, they work side by side. Eleanor reads through the transliteration. She asks questions, hard ones, the kind designed to expose a translator who's faking it. Amara answers every one. At one point, Eleanor stops on the 5th column, the inheritance addendum. She reads Amara's grammatical analysis twice. This framework you're using, the one for the date of construction in the 3rd line, I've only ever seen this published once. A Finnish journal, 1987. Heikki Koskiniemi's piece on women's contracts. Yes, ma'am. How did you find it? Interlibrary loan. Took 3 months. Eleanor sets her coffee down. She doesn't say anything for a long moment. Then she pulls out her phone. I'm calling the chair of my department, right now. She steps out into the hallway. Amara hears the conversation through the cracked door. Margaret, it's Eleanor. I need you to clear an hour this afternoon. No, not for me. For someone you need to meet. I'll explain when you see the work. Yes, I'm sure. No, she doesn't have a degree. That's part of why you need to see this. Margaret, sit down before you read it. Eleanor walks back in. She slides her phone into her jacket pocket. Margaret Hollings, chair of the Ancient Studies Department at Columbia. She wants to see your translation by end of day. Amara's hands go still on the table. I don't have any letters. No recommendations, no... Amara, listen to me. Letters are how the world tells itself who's allowed to be smart. Your work is the letter. That's how it should be. That's how it almost never is. Amara nods, slowly. Down the hall, in the smaller library off the main study, Calloway is hunched over his laptop. He's been there since 6 in the morning, racing to finish his own translation before Amara presents hers. He's competent. He's careful. He's thorough, and he's missed the inheritance addendum entirely. He doesn't know it yet. He'll find out tomorrow, in front of cameras, in front of his peers. Back in the gallery, Eleanor stands up to leave. She pauses at the door. Amara, when this is finished, when the translation is published, when the documentary airs, when Margaret offers you what I think she's going to offer you, your life is going to change. Not slowly, all at once. And there will be people who hate that you exist in their world. I need you to be ready for that. Amara closes the leather notebook. She rests her hand on the cracked cover. June's handwriting underneath. Dr. Ashford, with respect. She looks up. I've been ready a long time. Eleanor smiles. Just a small one. She walks out. Amara sits alone in the blue-white light, the tablet in front of her. 3,000 years of silence, finally being heard. by her. Late that afternoon, Amara takes a break in the staff kitchen. She's eating a sandwich Calvin made her. Turkey on rye, no crust, the way June used to make them. She's halfway through when the door swings open. It's Preston Whitmore, Gerald's son, 32. He's wearing jeans and a wrinkled sweater. He looks tired. "Mind if I sit?" Amara gestures to the chair across from her. She doesn't speak. Preston sits. He folds his hands on the table, looks down at them. "I want to apologize for what my father said the other night, for all of it." "You don't have to apologize for him." "No, but somebody should." The silence sits there for a moment. Then he speaks again, quieter. "He sent me to Wharton. I didn't want to go. I wanted to study history, ancient history actually. Funny coincidence." Amara looks at him, doesn't smile, just listens. "I had every door in the world open to me, and I still couldn't walk through the one I wanted. You had every door closed, and you built your own." She sets the sandwich down. "I didn't build a door, Preston. I just kept reading until the walls didn't matter." He looks at her for a long moment. Then he gets up, walks to the small bookshelf in the corner of the kitchen, the one nobody ever uses, and pulls down a hardcover book. It's old. The dust jacket is faded. He sets it on the table in front of her. It's a first edition copy of Mesopotamian Civilization, The Material Foundations by J.N. Postgate, published in 1992, a foundational text in the field. "I bought this at the campus bookstore my sophomore year. I never opened it. I think it should belong to someone who'll actually use it." Amara picks it up. Carefully. She opens to the table of contents. She flips a few pages in. She stops on a footnote. She lets out a small laugh. "There's a translation error in this footnote." Preston laughs too, a real one. "Of course there is." She closes the book, holds it against her chest for a moment. Then she sets it down on top of the leather notebook. The two books, side by side. One from a campus bookstore, one from a one-room schoolhouse in Georgia. Both, finally, in the right hands. Preston stands up, adjusts his sweater. "Whatever happens tomorrow at the shoot, I just want you to know, there's at least one person in that room who's rooting for you." He walks out. Amara sits alone with the two books on the kitchen table. Her sandwich is cold. She doesn't care. Outside the window, the sun is starting to set over the city. 40 floors down, people are walking home from work. None of them know her name yet. That changes tomorrow. Friday morning, 8 a.m. The penthouse has been transformed. The gallery is now a film set. 3 cameras on tripods, a boom mic on a stand, lighting rigs in the corners, throwing soft white light across every surface. A makeup person dusts powder on Whitmore's forehead. He's in a charcoal suit, silk pocket square, hair perfect. 40 guests have been invited. Collectors, academics, 2 reporters from arts publications, a handful of Whitmore's wealthiest friends. They're seated in 2 rows of folding chairs arranged in a semicircle around the display table. The tablet sits in the center, on a velvet cushion, under glass. Calloway stands beside Whitmore. He's been told he's the lead scholar for the segment. He's smiling for the cameras. His translation is in his jacket pocket. He's confident. Eleanor sits in the front row, hands folded in her lap, watching. The door opens. Amara walks in. She's wearing a simple navy dress, her hair pulled back. She's carrying a manila folder and the leather notebook. Her hands are steady. She doesn't look at the cameras. She looks at Eleanor. Eleanor gives her one small nod. Whitmore claps his hands together. "Showtime!" "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Today we're going to bring 3,000 years of history back to life. But before we do, I want to share a little personal moment with you all. A wager I made earlier this week." He gestures toward Amara. "This is a member of my household staff. A few days ago I made her an offer. Translate the entire tablet, and I'd pay her $100,000. Cash, on camera." Murmurs from the seated guests, a few uncomfortable laughs. "So let's see if she earned it." The cameras are rolling. The room goes still. Amara walks to the table. She sets her folder down. She opens the notebook. Whitmore picks up a photograph from the table. He hands it to her. "Column 7, translated, for the camera. This is a passage Amara finished translating 2 days ago. She knows it the way you know the lyrics to a song from your childhood. She reads it aloud, first in Akkadian, slow, precise, the doubled consonants where they belong, then in English. She gives the historical context. She notes the scribal hand. She identifies the likely date range within a 40-year window. The room shifts. A woman in the second row leans forward. A man in the back takes off his glasses. Calloway's smile gets a little tighter. Whitmore nods, gestures for Calloway to continue. This is where Calloway tries to take her down. Yes, that's a competent reading. Let me ask you something more specific. The verb form in line 4, idinu. Explain to me without notes the morphological reasoning behind the plural ending. And while you're at it, address the dialectal anomaly in the preceding clause. It's the kind of question designed to trip up a self-taught scholar. The kind of question that uses jargon as a weapon. Amara doesn't pause. She walks through the morphology. The plural subjunctive form, the historical reason for the dialectal shift. She cites a specific tablet from the British Museum collection, by accession number, that contains a parallel construction. Then she does something Calloway didn't expect. She corrects him, Dr. Calloway, with respect. The clause you described as a dialectal anomaly isn't anomalous. It's a standard formula in royal grants from this period. I think you may be working from the older Driver and Miles edition. The revised reading was published in 2009. Calloway's face goes red. He doesn't respond. Eleanor presses her lips together to keep from smiling. Whitmore is watching this unfold. He can feel the room turning. He can feel the cameras catching every second. He needs to stop this. Now! He reaches under the table. He pulls out a small object wrapped in tissue paper. He unwraps it slowly, theatrically, for the cameras. It's a second tablet, smaller, about the size of a deck of cards, different clay color, different style. I have one final test. This is a fragment I acquired separately, last month, from a private dealer. Nobody in this room has seen it. Not Eleanor, not Hugh, not anyone. He places it on the table in front of Amara. Translate it, right now. No notes, no notebook. He slides her leather notebook to the far end of the table. The room holds its breath. Amara looks at the notebook, then at the fragment. She puts on the cotton gloves Calvin set out for her. She picks up the loop. She studies the fragment for a long, agonizing moment. The seconds stretch. Calloway looks at his shoes, trying to hide the small smile at the corner of his mouth. Then Amara sets the fragment down. Gently. She looks up. This is a colophon, a scribal signature. It's not part of the main tablet. It's a separate piece, likely from the back of a different tablet broken off centuries ago. She takes a breath. The scribe's name is partially preserved. I can't make out the full reading, but the title is clear. He was a tupsharum, a master scribe. And this colophon isn't a legal document. It's a dedication. She reads it aloud, first in Akkadian, then she translates. This tablet is for my daughter when her hands are large enough to hold the reed. May she learn the signs as I have learned them. May her words outlast the clay. The room is silent, completely silent. Eleanor's eyes are shining. She doesn't try to hide it. A woman in the front row presses her hand to her mouth. Even Calloway looks down at the floor. 3,000 years ago, a father in Mesopotamia carved a wish for his daughter into wet clay, that she would learn to read, that her words would last. And in a Manhattan penthouse on a Friday morning in late October, his wish came true. Read aloud by a black woman from Waynesboro, Georgia, whose grandmother once said the exact same thing in different words. A language you carry in your mind belongs to you forever. Whitmore's face goes white, not from anger, from something deeper, from the slow, dawning realization, caught on 3 cameras, that he just tried to humiliate the most knowledgeable person in his own house, and every single person in the room saw it. Eleanor stands up. She begins to clap. Slow, deliberate. The man beside her joins, then the woman in the second row, then the back row. Within 10 seconds, the entire room is on its feet, except Whitmore. He's still sitting, pale. The applause lasts 45 seconds. That doesn't sound like a long time. Stand in a silent room and clap for 45 seconds. You'll feel every one. The cameras keep rolling. When the room finally settles, Eleanor walks to the front. She doesn't ask for the floor, she takes it. For the record, and for the cameras, I want to state plainly what just happened in this room. She turns to face the seated guests, then to the lens. Amara Townsend has produced the most complete and most insightful reading of this tablet that I have encountered in 40 years of working in this field. The inheritance addendum she identified in column 5 is a publishable discovery. The colophon she just read aloud, sight unseen without notes, is a piece of evidence that scholars will be writing about for decades. She pauses, looks directly at Calloway. I want that on the record. Calloway doesn't move. He doesn't look up. The reporters in the back row are typing furiously into their phones. Whitmore is still seated. He knows what comes next. He made the bet on camera, in front of 40 witnesses, in front of a documentary crew he hired himself. His PR advisor, a thin man in a gray suit, leans down and whispers in his ear. Whitmore stands up, slowly. He walks to the writing desk in the corner of the gallery. He pulls out a checkbook from the top drawer. He writes the check by hand, the cameras catching every stroke of the pen. He walks back. He hands it to Amara. He tries to smile. The smile doesn't reach his eyes. A bet's a bet. Well earned. Amara takes the check. She doesn't look at the amount. She looks at him. Thank you, Mr. Whitmore. This will go toward something my grandmother started a long time ago. She folds the check once, slides it into the front pocket of her dress. Whitmore nods, turns, walks out of the gallery. The door closes behind him. For the first time in his own house, he's the one who left the room. The guests start to mill around. Some approach Amara, some approach Eleanor. The cameraman, Tom Briggs, sets down his camera and walks straight up to Amara. Ms. Townsend. I've been shooting documentaries for 22 years. I've never asked anyone for an autograph in my life. I'm not asking now. But I want you to know, the footage I have of you working in this gallery at 2 in the morning with that notebook open beside you, that's the documentary now. Not him. You, if you'll let me. Amara nods, slowly. I'd like to think about it, with my mentor. She looks at Eleanor. Tom understands. He smiles, walks back to his camera. Eleanor's phone is buzzing in her pocket. She pulls it out, reads the screen, looks up at Amara. It's Margaret Hollings. She watched the whole thing. I had a private live stream running for her this morning. She wants you in her office tomorrow at 10. She's offering you a fully funded research fellowship, starting immediately. Amara doesn't speak. Her eyes fill. She blinks hard. Once. She nods. Across the room, Preston Whitmore approaches her. He doesn't make a speech. He just extends his hand. She takes it. He holds it for a moment. You're the real thing. Then he walks away, too. Eleanor turns to Amara. There's one more thing. May I see the notebook? Amara hesitates, just for a second. Then she pulls it out of her bag. She places it in Eleanor's hands like it's made of glass. Eleanor opens it carefully. The cracked cover, the first page in June Townsend's handwriting, the dedication, "For my Amara." Fill it with everything they tried to keep from us. She turns to the next page. Latin prayers in a careful, slanted script, then Greek letters, then a child's handwriting growing into a young woman's, then notes in Hebrew, then Aramaic, then, page by page, the slow construction of a self-taught scholar's life. By the back of the notebook, the handwriting is entirely Amara's. Cuneiform sketches, Sumerian vocabulary lists, cross-references to journal articles by name and year. Eleanor turns the pages slowly. The room has gone quiet again, watching her. She closes the notebook. She looks up. Her voice carries. This notebook, right here, this is the most important document in this room. The cameras catch it. The $2 million tablet sits behind glass, the most expensive object in the penthouse. But the most important thing in the room is a worn leather notebook from a one-room schoolhouse in Georgia. Eleanor hands it back to Amara. Both of them are blinking too much. A few minutes later, as the crowd starts to thin, Calloway finally walks over. Slowly, like every step costs him something. He stops in front of Amara. He doesn't apologize. He's too proud for that. Maybe later. Maybe never. But he asks her a question. A real one. About her methodology on the dative construction in the 5th column. She answers him fully. No edge in her voice. No payback. He listens. He nods. Then he says the only thing he can manage. I'll be reading your publication. He extends his hand. She shakes it. It's not forgiveness. It's not friendship. It's the smallest possible acknowledgement that the world he thought he ran has just rearranged itself in front of him. It's enough. By 6 p.m., the gallery is almost empty. The crew is breaking down lights. The catering staff is loading boxes into a service elevator. Eleanor and Amara are standing by the window, looking out at the city. 40 floors below, lights are coming on across Manhattan. Office buildings, apartments, the slow river of headlights on Park Avenue. Eleanor speaks quietly. Your grandmother, June. Tell me about her. Amara is quiet for a long moment. She used to say that a language belongs to whoever is brave enough to carry it. She said they could take everything else, but not that. She was right. She always was. They stand there for another minute. Neither one speaks. Behind them, the gallery doors are open. Whitmore's tablet is back in its case. The lights are dimming for the night. Somewhere in the building, in his private study, Gerald Whitmore is sitting alone with a glass of scotch he hasn't touched. He doesn't know it yet, but the documentary that airs in 3 months won't be his. It'll be hers. And the title, chosen by Tom Briggs and approved by his producer over a long phone call that night, will be 5 words long. The Maid Who Read Clay. 3 months later, the documentary airs. It's not what Whitmore commissioned. It's something else entirely. The opening shot is Amara's hands. Cotton gloves. The leather notebook open beside her. The blue-white light of the gallery at 2 in the morning. No music, just the sound of a pencil on paper and the hum of the climate system. The film is 47 minutes long. It's titled The Maid Who Read Clay. Within a week, it has 11 million views. The comments section becomes its own small movement. Thousands of people writing the same sentence in different words. I see myself in this story. I see my mother. I see my grandfather. I see the janitor at my high school who used to read Greek philosophy on his lunch break. I see myself. Public libraries across the country report a surge in foot traffic. The New York Public Library's main branch on 42nd Street starts receiving handwritten letters addressed to the woman who studied here. Amara takes the $100,000 from Whitmore's check and uses $60,000 of it to establish the June Townsend Language Fund, a scholarship for first-generation students pursuing ancient languages and linguistics at public universities. The first 3 recipients are announced in the spring. She enrolls at Columbia under Eleanor's mentorship. Margaret Hollings makes her a research fellow. Her first published paper, On the Inheritance Addendum in the Whitmore Tablet, is accepted by a peer-reviewed journal 6 months later. She still works part-time, not as a maid. She works at the library now, the same library, the 42nd Street branch, 2 evenings a week, helping people find books. She says she wants to be the person she needed when she was 19. The leather notebook is still in her bag. June's handwriting on the inside cover. New pages added every week. Gerald Whitmore tries to give an interview about the documentary. His PR team advises against it. The story has moved on. So has the world. He sells the cuneiform tablet at auction the following year, donates the proceeds to a charity his foundation runs. The press release mentions Amara's name once, in the 3rd paragraph. It's a small mention, but her name is there. A year after the dinner party, there's a small ceremony at Columbia. Amara is presenting her first major research paper to the Ancient Studies Department. Eleanor introduces her. Margaret Hollings sits in the front row. Calvin is there. Diane is there. Even Gregory Palmer is there, the estate manager who once warned her to know her place. He sits in the back and dabs his eyes when he thinks no one is looking. After the presentation, Amara goes back to her small office down the hall from Eleanor's. There's a nameplate on the door now. Amara Townsend, Research Fellow. She sits at her desk. She opens the leather notebook. June's handwriting on the left page. Latin prayers from a one-room schoolhouse in Georgia. Amara's published paper printed out on the right page. Translation of an old Babylonian land grant. The inheritance addendum highlighted in yellow. 2 pages. 2 generations. 3,000 years bridged by a black woman who refused to believe that knowledge had a gatekeeper. She closes the notebook. She puts it back in her bag. Outside her window, students are walking across the Columbia Quad. None of them know her story yet. That's okay. The story will find them when they need it. So here's what I want to leave you with. The next time you see someone in a uniform, a janitor, a server, a driver, a maid, pause. Just for a second. Consider what they might know, what they might carry, what language they might speak that you've never heard. You don't have to give them a stage, just don't take away their voice. If this story moved you, leave a comment below. Tell me, who in your life deserves to be seen? Share this with someone who needs to hear it tonight. And subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Because there are more Amaras out there than you think, and the world doesn't owe you a stage. But your gift will build one.
And just like that, the woman he called the harp became the voice the whole room leaned in to hear. A 3,000-year-old father's wish for his daughter, finally read aloud by a black woman from Westboro, Georgia. Here's what I want you to take from Amara's story. Knowledge has no gatekeeper, not a degree, not a last name, not the color of the uniform you wear to work. Grandma June told her, they can take your job, your home, the name of the deed, but the language you carry in your mind belongs to you forever. Amara didn't beat Gerard with anger. She beat him with thousands of quiet hours on a library floor, in her work clothes, feet aching, nobody watching. That's not revenge, that's self-respect with receipts. So let me ask you something, and be honest. Who have you walked past without really seeing? The janitor, the cashier, the woman cleaning your office at 10 p.m. Every single one of us has an Amara in our story. Someone carrying a gift the world told them to hide.